Let's bring in our political editor, Andrew Clennell, to kick things off this afternoon. Andrew, we previewed this yesterday, suggested that there would be local implications, security questions, and we saw it on show last night.
These were very disturbing scenes from in front of the Sydney Opera House last night, Kieran. Protesters chanting, "F the Jews." There's no doubt that the situation that occurred in Sydney last night was crazy and unacceptable. How could Jewish people not be able to attend the lighting up of the Opera House with the Israeli flag after the heinous attack suffered in Israel? Warned off for fear of violence in peaceful Australia. The biggest fear out of all this is we end up with a situation where police have to lock down areas, as we saw during the Cronulla riots in 2005. That we could end up with that kind of violence and division in Australia. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns was apologetic at the mess this morning and also explained why, in his view, it was important the Opera House was lit up.
Racial epithets were thrown at the Jewish community by the mere fact that they were members of the Jewish community, which is shocking and abusive and potentially a crime. I don't think that protest should have gone ahead. I don't think the organisers should have called it. I think that it rips apart, in small measures, and potentially larger measures, the cohesion that we have in New South Wales. If there were acts that meet the threshold for charging in relation to racial vilification or incitement of hatred or incitement of violence, then action will be taken. And I understand the New South Wales Police have formed a task force for that purpose. If you were a member of the Jewish community in New South Wales and you saw the Brandenburg Gate, Downing Street, you saw major landmarks in Italy, as well as every single other state's landmarks being lit up in the Israeli national flag, but to have your own landmarks not lit up, I think the obvious conclusion for that community to draw was that this government and this state and the people of New South Wales did not feel enormous solidarity and sympathy and compassion for what that community is going through, and we do.
Chris Minns was also critical of the Greens for encouraging this protest.
I could scarcely believe that the Greens were encouraging people to attend this abhorrent and terrible protest. To call for attendees is, I think it's appalling.
So the protesters didn't seek formal approvals for this protest, which would normally require 7 days. They started broadcasting, it was on Sunday. On Sunday night, the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns announced the Opera House would be lit up for one night only. Police then had discussions with the Jewish Board of Deputies on Monday, saying there could be a risk in Jewish people attending the Opera House. The Jewish Board of Deputies then felt forced to issue that warning. So the whole thing became a shambles, and it was only one night that Jewish and Israeli people could attend. 1,500 Palestinian supporters showed up instead. The police could have started arresting some of them, but decided that could have caused violence. Yesterday we showed you scenes of rival protests in the US. There have been similar scenes in the UK overnight.
Lost in the ongoing conflict.
Palestine! Palestine! We will not be silent! We will not be silent!
Well, Opposition leader Peter Dutton said today the Prime Minister, who Kieran will soon talk to, needed to be more active in dealing with potential threats on the Australian scene here.
I find it quite astounding and probably without precedent that after an incident like this, the National Security Committee wouldn't have met to talk about our own equities within the region, to talk about the threats as they might manifest here. What happens if, as Hamas is threatening at the moment, there are beheadings or some of the hostages are killed? What ramification will that have here?